Mars returns to big, bold, and bright Leo on Friday, April 18th, bringing back the themes from November, December, and encouraging major transformations as it opposes Pluto and squares the Sun. Let's take a closer look and break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, predictive, electional, and locational readings. If you enjoy my work, please show your support by leaving a like, a comment, subscribing, and pressing the notification bell. Watch more of my videos to help me grow. This is how YouTube algorithm becomes friendlier and sends more eyes towards my channel. I appreciate every single one of you, even if you're just sending me happy thoughts. Thank you for that. Speaking of being thankful, you can also buy me a tea, a coffee, a croissant, any token of appreciation as a way of showing your support too. And if you're seeking more guidance, you want personal answers, visit anastasia.astrology.com to book your reading. I recommend starting with a natal chart reading if you've never had one before, because it's a perfect introduction. It helps you see you for who the universe designed you to be. Then you can also do a predictive reading, year ahead or solar return, which is best done around your birthday. A relationship compatibility is great for any partnerships. And on my website, you can sign up for my Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course. I created it with empowerment in mind, helping you discover the you were meant to be, find the strength, find the confidence, embrace your powerful potential, and transform the weaknesses into your biggest assets. Classes begin in September. Sign up on my website or at the link in the description. Additionally, I create products. I carefully select astrologically benevolent times. This is the branch of astrology known as electional astrology. And I conjure. There is always kind of like a spell, an offering, a ritual element. And in this video, I'd like to highlight my exalted Mars candle, because even though Mars in Leo is stronger than what we've had up until now, with Mars being in its fall in Cancer, it will be opposing Pluto. So it will be explosive, dramatic, and irritable. An exalted Mars, this lovely red candle with a garnet stone, which is the stone of Mars, captures Mars in Capricorn. Mars that is exalted, strong, strategic, good at expressing anger and ambition when necessary, but also good at knowing when not to fight and when to take a step back. Highly recommend this for anyone who struggles setting fitness goals, or if you're struggling with sexual desire, because this sort of is good for that. There are also exalted Mars oils if you're interested in those. Highly recommend this for anyone born with Mars in Cancer, Taurus, or Libra. Signs of fall and detriment. Mars in the 12th or 8th houses. Mars retrograde in your natal chart, or if your Mars conjoins, squares, or opposes Saturn. As it does, for me, it squares Saturn, and it's placed in the 12th house. So Mars is the candle for me, for sure. Highly recommended for you as well. So Mars returns to Leo, right? Mars has been in Leo from November 3rd, 2024 until January 6th, 2025. We've had a preview of what Mars in Leo is about. So my first question to you, reflect back. What was happening in your life back then? What kind of desires, what kind of ambitions were being activated for you? Mars in Leo puts on a show. Mars in Leo is Beyonce. She's born with Mars in Leo, right? She's able to draw attention to. She's a humble Virgo, if you just think of her being a Virgo sun, but her Mars is going to make you stop and stare, right? So back in November, December, you could have had some strong desire for recognition, some strong ambition coming up, other maybe search for spotlight or creativity desires. Because in Leo, Mars has to behave in accordance to the nature of the planet ruling Leo, which is the sun. So Mars, the planet of action, wants to behave in the way that is seen, in the way that is proud, in the way that is noticeable. So we will feel collectively between April 18th and June 17th for the next couple of months that we want to be recognized, that we want to scream loudly, we want to roar, right? It might be the time you see more couples fighting in public, you see more performances, whether you're performing or you're just watching them. You're becoming more loud in the bedroom, right? You're becoming more creative. You want to dance. You want to express your zeal, your passion, your charm. And it's a very ego-driven, right? So a lot of Mars in Leo is me, I, give me, right? So it's very strong. However, it's not all rosy because, you know, so Mars enters Leo on April 18th. Immediately it's going to trine Neptune, that is fresh in Aries, which is a pretty nice transit. It could suggest that you're getting inspired, that your desires maybe support other people, or your goals are aligned with your community, which Neptune might represent. Together they feel like a very heroic energy. Very kind of, we have a quest we're gonna go on, like Harry Potter vibes, right? I'm gonna destroy all the bad guys. So it's like something inspires you. However, right after that, on April 20th, the Sun squares Mars. So the Sun, that desire, Mars, that desire to take action, squares the Sun, and the Sun is in practical Taurus. So some kind of practical concerns, or even the fact that your couch is too comfortable becomes more of a hindrance. And then on April 26th, Mars will oppose Pluto. And this is a big one because Mars has opposed Pluto twice before. We've had one on November 3rd, so look at late October, early November. And then we've had one on January 3rd, so look at late December, early January. What kind of friction, what kind of opposition, what kind of power struggles have you dealt with? Have you dealt with your desires versus community and what other people expected of you, what they projected onto you? Maybe certain duties, maybe, you know, Pluto in Aquarius makes me think of like a boss or a community, right? Or like if you work for a large organization, there may be something beyond yourself, something that other people expect of you. And so as these two combat, actually these three, we have the Sun in Taurus, chill, slow, steady. You know, slow and steady wins the race, not necessarily wrong. We have Mars in Leo, which is me. I want to shine, look at me. And Pluto in Aquarius, which is like, this is not about you, this is about others. And so how do you manage those? How do you create a good sort of balance of all of it? And whenever we have a T-square is, so, you know, we have three types of zodiac signs that are cardinal, that are fixed and mutable. So, and the T-square is created when 3 out of the 4 signs, so each of those triplicities, right? Like each one of those like 3 cardinal, fixed, and mutable has 4 signs in it. So whenever 3 out of 4 are in an aspect with each other, it is called a T-square. So one is missing. The 3 are there, but one is missing. And so it's considered that the missing sign is the answer. So with Scorpio being the missing sign, the T-square releases into Scorpio. And so the suggestion here is that you should welcome, on some level, you shouldn't shy away from conflict or from darkness, right? It doesn't mean you need to seek it out, but sometimes Scorpio is not afraid of death, right? And it's not afraid to die and be reborn. It's not afraid of discomfort. If anything, Scorpio thrives or is the sign that's most comfortable with death and rebirth, as much as one can ever be comfortable with that. But so the fact that Scorpio is missing, it suggests to us that there is that need to face shadows, release, transform, die, and be reborn. So I think the beginning of Mars in Leo can be highly kind of empowering through facing darkness. In May, we will have Venus trining Mars, also for the 3rd time on May 22nd, which is a pretty beautiful transit. In June, Mercury will sextile Mars, and June 15th, right before this transit wraps up, Mars will square Uranus. So it's mostly, later on, it's mostly harmonious, but not fully, because at the end of the transit in June, there will be that square to Uranus, which may bring up some of the April themes and encourage revolution and eye-opening discoveries. So let's take a look at this transit through the lens of the 12 zodiac signs. If you are ready for a more personal look, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com and book your reading. I recommend starting with the natal chart because it gives you the blueprint. It shows you the blueprint of your soul, helps you see who you are meant to be. Predictive readings are great. Year ahead, solar return, relationship readings as well. So find them at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On there, you can also register to join Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul, the course that is meant to help you feel empowered, confident, aligned, and more in control of your life. So let's start with Aries rising. Mars is entering your 5th house, opposing Pluto in the 11th, squaring the Sun in the 2nd. You are driven to have fun. You are driven to enjoy life. You're driven to date, to spend time with kids, to be playful, experimental, charming, right? Romantic. However, there is some tension with your friends that may appear right in the beginning of this transit. We'll say the final third of the month. And there may also be some kind of financial concerns, debts, resources you're waiting on that are slowing you down. So before you are able to have a good time, you will need to deal with some potential, financial confusion or issues with friends, or maybe even expectations other people have of you, your colleagues expecting things from you on a Friday night. What's interesting is Mars in the 5th house will trine Neptune that has just entered your 1st house. So there is, I think, a strong pull with this transit. And reflect back on November, December, when Mars was in Leo previously, when it was that shadow period, because you may be repeating some of that, or you may be moving forward from something that inspired you back then, and you're kind of getting ready to go full speed ahead. But once again, before you do, you'd have to deal with expectations of other people, even maybe deal with the fact that something that's going on in your community, in your friendships, is too dark and too sort of sad. The square between Mars, Pluto, and the Sun releases into Scorpio, so do not hesitate to ask for help and do not hesitate to let something outdated go. For more, if you feel ready, join Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course at anastasiadoesastrology.com or book your personal reading today to understand your soul's blueprint or talk about the future or your relationship. If you are a Taurus rising, Mars is entering your 4th house of home, family, and living situation. We're looking back at November, December, when Mars was in Leo previously. What was happening with your family members? What was happening with your living situation? What was happening with any matters involving inheritance, property, real estate? Mars here will give you a strong drive to move, to redecorate, to redesign, to buy property, right? Like maybe you were about to do it back at the end of 2024, but something happened and something delayed you. But now Mars is here, you're more courageous, you're more driven, you're more focused on many levels, you're not afraid to take on a fight and assert yourself. Chances are it's not going to be in public necessarily. Pluto might complicate things and make them a little bit public, but chances are that you're very kind of private and maybe you're accomplishing things within your family and you're asserting yourself and you're speaking up and being this leader in your family. Things are more complicated at the start of this transit, so the final 10 days of April, as Mars will form a T-square with the Sun in the 1st house and Pluto in the 10th, releasing into your 7th house. So there does exist friction between what you're trying to accomplish in the home and what your career demands of you. Because Pluto is in your 10th house, it highlights a strong drive you have to perhaps help the world, to change how you perceive, to discover power. The sun in the first house also encourages you to focus on your health and identity and your body. And so it may feel right off the bat, it may feel like too much. Your family needs you, your children need you, there's a lot of activities, there's also work matters, there's like doctor's appointments you were planning to do, and all of it is like overwhelming. What is helpful here is the fact that the T-square releases into Scorpio, which is your 7th house, and so I think leaning onto your spouse, your partner, even your work spouse, right, or your mom, if she helps you co-parent, or your nanny, or anybody else, like asking for help. Do not sort of neglect asking for help, and do not also hesitate to welcome kind of transformations, difficult conversations, because sometimes through them you actually find more peace and closeness in relationships and more alignment. For more, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com. Book your natal chart, year ahead, solar return, best done around your birthday, relationship reading. Sign up for Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul if you feel ready to go deeper and understand yourself and learn to speak the language of the stars. All of that at anastasiadoesastrology.com. The beautiful Gemini rising. Mars is entering your 3rd house, bringing back the themes from November, December 2024 when it was in here the last time. So for a while, Mars has been in your 2nd house of money and values. Maybe you've dealt with a lack of energy. Maybe there were some financial matters. Maybe just like a lack of clarity in terms of what to do, right? A bit of an emotional approach to action. If you're full of energy, you're taking action. If you're tired, you'd rather take a nap. So now that Mars is entering your 3rd house, it is a lot more focused. It is a lot more driven. It suggests that your everyday life is speeding up from getting more phone calls, from your brain just being on fire, new ideas. Keep a pen next to your bed, for example, and write things down. New encounters, more friendship, friendly interactions. You're going out, you're traveling more, you're speaking more. Mars and Leo would want to be, it's like confident, it wants to be looked at, it wants to do things in visible ways, right? If it's your business, you maybe decide to kind of host a party, or you're getting involved with a community, you're like hosting a community gathering. Like a lot of quite exciting possibilities can be here, I think. The tension comes from the fact that Mars forms a T-square with the Sun in your 12th and Pluto in your 9th. And so along the way, you may run into some maybe non-believers, people who question you, people who have different faiths, people who have different religious beliefs. And so chances are quite high of getting in a fight with them. The Sun in the 12th might also suggest that there might be some self-defeating tendencies that are getting revealed, whether it's you jumping at a conflict really easily or you avoiding conflict at all costs. There might be something that needs to be transformed in the way you deal with arguments, matters involving siblings, matters involving community, matters involving your writing, your projects. All of that might be highlighted. The T-square between Mars, Pluto, and the Sun releases into Scorpio, which is your 6th house. And this could be a powerful opportunity, I think, to reinvent your everyday life, maybe transform something in your everyday life, come up with a better schedule, and also ask yourself what is healthy and versus like what is unhealthy in your life. If you're seeking more, if you're ready for personal guidance, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Natal is more general, year ahead is predictive, solar return predictive, right around your birthday. is best to do it. Relationship, electional, locational, astrology, all of those options on there. And sign up for Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course to learn more about who you came here to be. All of that is at anastasiadoesastrology.com, and you can still sign up. For the beautiful Cancer rising, Mars is entering your second house. Brings back the themes from November, December 2024, so do reflect back. This is good news. It's not immediately good news because Mars makes a lot of challenging aspects, but it is good news. For a while, Mars has been in Cancer in your first house. It was retrograde. You may have dealt with forces outside of your control, maybe felt like things are not going the way you'd like them to do. You may have dealt with health issues, either yours or people in your life. There could have been just like a lot on your shoulders. Now that Mars is done with Cancer, you will feel a sense of heavy energy lifting off of your shoulders, right? Mars in the second house is very focused on making money. It may suggest that you are just kind of busy with your business, you're reaching out to a lot of people, you're networking, you're going places, you're negotiating, selling, etc. Mars in the second, gotta warn you, can also mean burning through money a lot faster. So there is a danger of spending too much money really fast. So stay grounded, stay considerate. Look back at what was happening with your finances. What were you exploring? Second house is also your values, your priorities, your goals in life on many levels. So reflect on that and think, sort of think back, because this energy is coming back around. There are, in the final 10 days of April, Mars will form a T-square with the Sun in your 11th and Pluto in your 8th, which suggests that there are some power struggles around values, around money, power struggles with friends potentially, or something involving old karma, old debts that is holding you back from reaching your goals, right? Sun in the 11th might also suggest like an issue with a friend, a conflict with a friend that makes things a little bit difficult. I can see this affecting your children as well, because the T-square releases into Scorpio, which is your 5th house. And that might actually be the answer to a lot of questions. Like, think of your child and what they might need if you are a parent, and if these financial or ideological issues affect your child. And if you're not a parent, the release into the 5th house might suggest that you should prioritize kind of play and fun and choose wisely in that regard, right? And like maybe make decisions out of that search for joy, if you feel like joy has been lacking in your life. But yeah, Mars in the second can be, especially later, it could be quite supportive for your career. I think just the beginning of it, the first like 12 days of it are a bit rough. If you're ready for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com and sign up for my natal astrology course to discover the blueprint of your soul, find more power, more confidence, and become the you were meant to be. Spots are limited, but you can still sign up at anastasiadoesastrology.com. The beautiful Leo rising, Mars is entering your 1st house. So this is more energy. This is more clarity. Mars has been in your 12th house for what felt like forever. Definitely from the start of the year up until mid-April. And you may have dealt with some uncertainty, some hidden enemies, or, some self-defeating tendencies, just sort of feeling stuck, feeling maybe self-critical, tough on yourself, low on energy. And now that Mars is entering your 1st house, you are empowered, you are ready, you are driven, you're courageous, you're bold and bright. You express yourself in a way that makes others stop and stare. You're noticeable, right? All the good things. Of course, the danger is also being a little bit more argumentative or more competitive or more non-compromising. And that gets highlighted right at the start of this transit as Mars forms a T-square with the Sun in your 10th house and Pluto in your 7th. So conflicts and a need to balance your personal desires with those of your partner or those of your business associate or any kind of one-on-one partner, and your career goals. Sometimes this could be like, you know, you're tired of your job and you're ready to start a business, and you pull the trigger a little bit too soon and you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you quit and you realize that your rent is due and maybe you should have waited a couple of weeks, right? So watch out for being reckless. Watch out for power struggles and drama and conflicts with your partner. Take a look back at November, December 2024, especially January 3rd and November 3rd, January 3rd, 2025 and November 3rd, 2024, because we've had Mars-Pluto opposition before, and we've had Mars in your first house in November, December 2024. So some of those themes, if you've had, let's say in November, you got an idea that you want to study yoga, but then something happened and you didn't pursue this idea. Now that Mars is back in your first house for 2 months, you will feel really strongly about what you want to be doing. And because Mars is trining Neptune in your ninth house, these ideas and projects may very much involve education, travel, writing, publishing, things like that. If you're ready for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com for a personal consultation, natal, relationship, predictive, astrocartography, electional readings are all available for you. And register for Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course to discover the you were meant to be and learn how to use astrology to your advantage so that you can master life and have more control. Find that at anastasiadoesastrology.com. For the beautiful Virgo rising, Mars is entering your 12th house. So 12th house is the spiritual realm. And if we are not aware of the planetary energies here, they can behave in self-destructive ways. So sometimes Mars in the 12th house might suggest being more self-critical, being tougher on yourself. It can bring up sleep issues if you're not exercising, you're not being active. However, if you are aware of it, and if you use this energy to maybe move in a more spiritual way, like do yoga, do Warrior 2, right? Or something like that. If you're using this energy to kind of retreat and work on your problems through therapy or through meditation, or through creativity, Mars in the 12th house can be really powerful for working on a project on your own, some kind of soulful creative project. Then it could be a powerful asset, right? Take a look back at November, December 2024, which is when Mars was in Leo previously. And be careful the last third of April, as Mars creates a T-square with the Sun in your 9th and Pluto in your 6th. It does read as issues around travel, issues with work, colleagues, maybe issues around education, some kind of power struggles, disagreements that reveal where you're not treating yourself well and where maybe you're being too non-compromising, where do you need to adjust a little bit. So try to be thoughtful and be patient and be kind with yourself and with other people. The T-square does release into Scorpio, which is your 3rd house. So I think communication and honesty and kind of truthful speech can be a really great asset at this time and can help you transform whatever difficulty arises. If you're seeking more, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com and book your reading. They're natal, they're predictive, year ahead or solar return readings. The latter are best done around your birthday. Relationship consultations, I can help you figure out the best place in the world to move to, or help you elect the right date for your wedding or an important event. Additionally, I know how much you love learning and self-improvement. Join my Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course to see what your chart has to say, how to find more confidence, how to find more power, how to use astrology to your advantage. register at anastasiadoesastrology.com. For the beautiful Libra rising, Mars is entering your 11th house, encouraging you to network, to socialize, to take on projects that make you a leader, group projects where you're speaking on behalf of other people, you're defending your community. You may be speaking for your trade union, or you're addressing the dean of your college, advocating for your classmates. You're maybe more driven to venture on social media, start new projects, present your ideas, and do so in a very kind of bold and bright and noticeable way. The danger of Mars in the 11th also lies in conflicts with friends, where you're more willing to take on a fight. Sometimes you may be more willing to take on a fight with your friend. So watch out for power struggles, watch out for a little bit of drama here, especially in the last third of April when Mars forms a T-square with the Sun in your 8th and Pluto in your 5th. So for sure there may be some kind of ideological disagreement with friends, tension within a group, maybe also some conflict between what's happening in your romantic life and what's happening in your public life. Some kind of financial tension or conflicts of values between your partners and your friends and your lovers and all of that kind of stuff. Like your primary lover finds out about your secondary lover. Oh no. But you know, there's different possibilities here. I don't judge what people do with their lives. The T-square releases into Scorpio, which is your second house of money, values, and priorities. So the advice I'd give you is narrow it down, zoom in into what's truly important to you, what is worth your time, what is worth your energy, what is worth your money, and then go and move accordingly. Because it could also suggest that you have this brilliant idea, but it's too big and it's too impossible to accomplish because it's going to be too expensive, or not everybody agrees. So maybe you just need to scale it down, but keep the most important kind of goal in mind. Think back on November, December 2024, especially November 3rd, January 3rd, 2025, when we had Mars oppose Pluto in the past. Like, were there any power struggles? Were there any conflicts? Because this could be the time you transform things and move forward. If you're ready for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com for a private consultation, or join Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course to discover what your soul has to tell, what you came here to do, and how to live life full of empowerment and confidence. For the lovely Scorpio rising, Mars is entering your 10th house. So this is all about career, public action, maybe being more driven. If you're starting a new career, you're maybe choosing work that is requiring you to wear a uniform, like a firefighter or a policeman. Maybe you're taking on projects that are a little bit dangerous or require more leadership. You're maybe speaking with bosses with more confidence, with more courage, right? For a while we've had Mars, your chart ruler, in Cancer, which would have been a lot more emotionally driven, a lot more passive aggressive, sort of energetically ups and downs, could have plagued many of you, right? It could have been more sort of irritating. Now that Mars is in the 10th house in Leo, you have this powerful surge of ambition. Reflect back on November, December when we had Mars in Leo previously. What kind of new projects, new ideas circulated in your head? Perhaps you had to dial it down, take a step back, and now that Mars is back here, you've researched things enough and you're ready. You're going for it. Early on in this transit, so the final third of April, Mars will form a tense T-square with the Sun in your 7th and Pluto in your 4th. So you're balancing your professional drive with what's happening in the family, the needs of the family, and a need to be a bit more detached and objective, with what's happening in your relationship and perhaps the needs of your partner or your desire to be with your partner. So it may feel a bit overwhelming, The T-square releases into your first house. So the answer is Scorpio, the first house. So try to operate from the point of view of like personal benefit. Of course, you know, the word selfish, it has this very negative connotation, but selfishness is good in like healthy amounts. So there may be a suggestion that you need to sort of retreat and prioritize your well-being, because you need to be a little selfish so that you have energy and wisdom and compassion to give to others. So make sure you don't overextend yourself. And if you're ready for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Natal is more general, describes the blueprint of your soul, your karmic lessons and gifts. Year ahead is predictive, solar return is predictive, best done around your birthday. There's also relationship readings, locational astrology, electional astrology, and more on my website. And register to join Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course to discover you were always meant to be and learn how to live life with the help of astrology. Find it at anastasiadoesastrology.com. For the beautiful Sagittarius rising, Mars is entering your 9th house, urging you to go on adventures. It's encouraging you to study. It's encouraging you to book trips. It's encouraging you to pick up a foreign language, meet up with a foreign love interest. You are more ready. You are restless, actually, on some level, to get out there and to connect with people. The negative potential might involve being too opinionated or getting sort of, getting into fights with people, especially in the first sort of 10 days of this transit. I'd say from like April 20th until April 30th. As Mars in your 9th house will oppose Pluto in the 3rd and square Sun in the 6th. This sort of reads as some kind of some kind of power struggle with work colleagues, potentially, some type of like disagreement and heated words, heated exchanges, maybe a sense of like being overloaded or having to adapt to the expectations of others. So try to remember to breathe, practice yoga, journal, meditate. Don't let yourself get too kind of irritated by it. Reflect back on January 3rd, which is the last time Pluto in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius and Mars in Leo got into an opposition. It could be very telling for you. And also reflect back on November, December, when Mars was in Leo previously, because that would have been an introduction of a new project and a new idea and a new kind of aspiration. And now as Mars has gone on this journey of retrograde and you've done a lot of reflecting and you've done a lot of soul searching, you have more of a direction, right? And directive from your brain to in terms of where to go. If you're ready for more, book a personal consultation at anastasiadoesastrology.com and join Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul to find out how to live life that is most aligned with your soul, to be more empowered and feel like you're stronger in face of adversity and in face of unpredictable events that happen to all of us. And if you want to start smaller, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. For the lovely Capricorn rising, Mars is entering your 8th house. So between April 18th and June 17th, it will be in your 8th house. And it brings up themes from November, December, when Mars was previously in Leo. So with Mars in the 8th, you have a strong drive to work with other people. 8th house is all about resources of others, finances, energy, agreements, connections, all of that kind of stuff. So Mars here can give you the energy to negotiate, to partner up, to do sort of more research, investigative work. Sometimes Mars in the 8th might suggest that you are more driven to fight other people's battles, which is something a therapist might do, or a Reiki healer, or even an astrologer. There is like a strong desire to kind of protect other people or help them navigate the turbulent waters of life. Watch out for conflicts around money, because Mars will square Sun in your 5th and oppose Pluto in your 2nd house in the final 10 days of April. And so there are likely to be some disagreements, maybe disagreements with your romantic partner, maybe disagreements with your child, or disagreements involving children, like you want to buy a new crib for your son and your husband feels like the old crib is fine, not broken, why fix it type of energy, right? And he wants to put money away to save. So maybe you're dealing with some kind of disagreement, or you don't see the future the same way, or you don't agree on having children with your partner. So there might be some kind of important matters coming to light. Mars in the 8th house being the dark house, can definitely reveal whatever needs to be addressed in your life. It is a T-square, and it does have energy similar to November 3rd and January 3rd, when we had Mars-Pluto oppositions before. So do reflect back and let me know in the comments below if you remember what was happening. The T-square does release into Scorpio in your 11th house. So there is maybe like friendships and alliances can be very supportive. Like if you're struggling, go talk to a trusted friend, ask for advice, ask for help if necessary, if there's too much on your shoulders. Ask for connections if you're trying to get a creative project off the ground. You don't have to do it alone. Speaking of not doing it alone, join Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course. It begins in September, and it has the power to open your eyes on the truth hidden in your natal chart, help you transform the difficulties and find more stability and comfort in the world that feels so turbulent and unsteady. Register at anastasiadoesastrology.com or book a reading on there to have a private consultation with me. If you are an Aquarius rising, Mars is entering your 7th house of relationships. So Mars has been here in November, December 2024. And it could have introduced some new partnerships. Like it could have suggested that you're driven to date, that you're driven to collaborate, partner up. But then it went retrograde, right? And so something got delayed. Maybe even something was getting started in your life through your partner experiencing a major new beginning. Like they got a job offer in Paris and you were going to follow them. But then that got delayed and things sort of had to be unraveled. Now that we're back here, and please let me know what was happening in November, December, but now that we're back here, things are starting to move forward, right? Your partner is experiencing more forward momentum. Their life is sort of busy and packed. You're more driven to date. You're more driven to commit. You're sort of with Mars getting involved in a T-square with the Sun in the 4th and Pluto in the 1st. There are likely to be a bit of friction early on, the final 10 days of April. Be careful of like power struggles, disagreements between you, your partner, and your family or their family. Tensions involving the way you see the future. But if you've already, let's say you've dealt with friction in November, early November, when Mars opposed Pluto first time, and then in January when Mars opposed Pluto for the second time, and you've like addressed the discomfort, you've discussed the discomfort, this could be a very powerful time when you finally feel closer to your partner, you commit, you start dating someone you've only seen as a friend until now. So it could be a really important transformative time, but the last 10 days of April, they're just like a bit trickier, I think, because of that Mars-Pluto opposition. Pluto's in your 1st house of identity, Mars is in the 7th house of relationships. So like you're driven to partner up, but Pluto says that there's still some like unsolved childhood wound that you haven't addressed, or there is some other battle that you have to fight, or it says that it's not about you right now, it's about helping your community, right? So there might be some kind of tension there. The T-square does release into Scorpio in the 10th house. So the strong energy of like community, purpose, serving others are very much highlighted here. Do not hesitate to talk it out, right? Ask for help. Do not shy away from the darkness. Darkness leads to light. If you're seeking more, sign up for Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course at AnastasiaDoesAstrology.com. It begins in September, and it can help you understand yourself, feel more empowered, more confident, and more secure within yourself. Find it at AnastasiaDoesAstrology.com. The spots are limited, but you can still sign up. There's still spots. And if you are seeking personal guidance, book a reading with yours truly. For the lovely Pisces rising, Mars is entering your 6th house. And this is Mars that it's in its house joy, so that's quite nice. It's driven to take care of health. It's driven to work. It's almost like sort of, you know, it might suggest that you're doing work in like noticeable way, or you want recognition for what you've done, or you're more willing to kind of do things in public instead of private, maybe. Health-wise, if you've dealt with any health issues, and reflect back on November, December, which is when Mars was in Leo previously. It went in November, it went retrograde in December, and then left Leo on January 6th. So if there was like a health matter, you were like, okay, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to get that surgery or a project or even a course of study, something related to diet, healing, legal matters, any kind of problems that you've started looking at but didn't follow through, now is the time to follow through, right? Like Mars in the 6th is the time now to schedule that surgery, to start that project, to commit to that business opportunity, to start that partnership with your colleague. So there's a lot of energy here. It might also be the time when you're doing more spring cleaning, you like have a lot of energy after Mars being in its fall for a while. You now have a lot of energy to like get things done, right? Get them done, get things organized, and like just watch out that you're not doing too much, and do enjoy this energy for like exercising, eating better, solving health problems, problem solving at work. Just don't like push yourself too hard so you don't get into like an injury, so you don't get like a workplace injury. And especially be careful in the last third of April when Mars forms a T-square with the Sun in the 3rd and Pluto in your 12th, because that's the time when like rushing and doing too much can be especially costly. There may be some power struggles, some difficult conversations with colleagues, siblings, work people, even neighbors that you need to address, and some self-defeating tendencies that you need to examine. This could be quite potent for letting go of bad habits and looking in the mirror and becoming more self-aware. So enjoy this transit. Let me know if you remember what was happening in November, December, especially reflect back on November 3rd, January 3rd, 5 days before, 5 days after, because those were the times when Mars opposed Pluto. If you're seeking more, book a reading at AnastasiaDoesAstrology.com to find out what your natal chart has to say, discover what your year ahead has coming up, or talk about your relationship. Additionally, register for Natal Astrology course to discover what your soul's blueprint is all about, to build healthier relationship with yourself and with people in your life, and live life full of meaning and stability. It's all about empowerment. I think astrology helped me feel more in charge and feel more aware, and it gave me a lot of answers, so it can do the same for you. Find it at AnastasiaDoesAstrology.com, and thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope this video offered you some guidance and insight, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.